So I have decided not to watch the film today, to be able to speak, because yesterday, although I had seen the film 3 times already, I watched the film in the cinema, and I couldn't stop crying during the film and after the film. So I was absolutely unable to be able to speak for the Q&A. Luckily, there were enough people, and they are able to, they are grown up now, so they could manage without me. But I have seen lots of people also crying here, so I'm not the only one. I also wanted to thank you very much for the film you have made. It's a film that you have both made. It's a film, yes, it's really the teamwork, and we're going to talk about it. I'm on the way to do a film too, maybe several films around this theme, because it's a very important theme to me, because I am a victim, entre guillemets. So you can imagine how it's important for me. I had not the luck to have a father who made work on him. So in a way, I'm learning things about what could have thought my father through your film, if he had the strength to work on him. And I hope that because I work on me, I will never be an aggressor. I don't think so. I think Tiona is, I have not addressed Tiona when she was a little girl. She's my goddaughter, that's why I say this. So, no, but it's, it's very interesting, because it's really something, when people say, oh, people who have been aggressed are becoming aggressors. Tell this to me, like how I can feel bad about it. No, this kind of film is really giving me hope that it's possible to change, or if you don't change totally, to be aware that you have a real big problem. And so anyway, it gives me hope if we can summarize. And until your film, I had absolutely no hope. For me, the life was really. My father died, and it's a good thing, because I had no hope of him changing. And so it was a big relief for me, even if it was still I had a long journey psychoanalyst to go on, and it's not finished. I'm still fighting also with myself, with life and everything, life issues. I don't think I will commit suicide now, but for a long time I was thinking of it all the time. Some of your characters, and so I think this film is extremely important, and that it will have a very, very long life. And that everybody is going to take it and to use it in a good way. And as a filmmaker, you do this, you can die after. But I'm laughing now when I say this. Don't commit suicide.
No, I won't.
Life is beautiful. How it says it. Life, yes, and yes, it's true. Life is beautiful. Yes, I for myself. I'm starting more and more to get into this dimension of life. And you are a big part on my way towards my freedom.
Thank you.
So thank you. Now I'm going to cry.
No, we agreed you don't cry today. We agreed.
No. Anyway, if I cry, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed of my tears.
Okay. No problem.
I wanted to know, how did you start your collaboration? You two.
Okay.
Because it's a really wonderful collaboration, and I don't think that you have edited with Guillaume before this film. So you really met around this very particular project.
Yes, I directed 11 short films before this one. And every time I was editing by myself or with my co-director when I'm made films with another director. And for this one, I knew it was my first feature and that I had to work differently. I also knew it was going to be a very long process because I knew I was going to film throughout a year, not continuously, of course, but 4 times in a year. Every time 2 weeks of shooting in Corsica, in this prison. And I knew I was going to come to get to this prison at every season in order to see how time flows in this prison. Time is the essence of prison. Everybody is waiting, everybody is doing their time in prison. And in this prison, because you can see outside, I was sure that the landscape will change throughout the year. And as I started the movie, I was kind of sure that I was going to film the people working in the fields. I had no idea that the film was going to take this path. So I was expecting shooting that would be mainly outside. I was not expecting that we would shoot in the cells so much. And so I already knew that we were going to have massive footage, many hours of footage, and that I wouldn't be able to edit it myself. I had no idea that what was going to be that hard was that I was going to appear in the film. Well, not appear, but you can hear me, and that the topics were going to be that heavy. And that would have that I would need the distance from an editor. But still, I had the knowledge that the people that were incarcerated in Casabianda had done those horrible things. So I thought, okay, maybe those things will emerge in the film. I was not that sure because I had the authorization to go and film in Casabianda, but I had very few occasions to go scouting there, and so when I really started shooting, I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't have time to meet the people before, or not really. I made a 1 week appearance during which I was showing films to the people that I might film later.
Which is very important.
Yes, but I had no idea that those people were going to come and talk to me. To me, the film was going to be about the geography of Casabianda. I thought I was going to film a film about an open prison and not about those people that are incarcerated and can talk to me about incest. For me, the film was going to be about the landscapes, the open prison, the work in the fields, the work with the psychologist maybe, and maybe the wardens, the probation officers, etc. But I was not expecting the prisoners to come and talk to me. And it was a surprise when they decided to come and talk to me. And the other surprise was that they wanted their faces to be seen. Because why did I not expect them to come and talk to me? It was because of the kind of crime they committed and the fact that they were that close to being released. And I was thinking, when you're that close to being released, you don't want to be recognized after you're being freed. So, to me, everything that's happening in the film was impossible. I couldn't even think of it. I was not fantasizing that it would happen. I had no idea that it could happen. So when I first met Alexandra, I was looking for an editor, but not knowing what was going to happen. And I met many editors, but when I met Alexandra, there was one point that was very amazing, is that she told me, okay, I wish we could work together, but it won't happen. It's impossible because you have to know that I'm currently pregnant It doesn't show yet, but I'm pregnant, and the work is going to be stopped at some point because, of course, you know what happens. And so I was, okay, that's strange, that's weird, but why not? That's not a problem. I knew that every time I would come back from a shooting session, we were going to have an editing session during which we will watch the raw footage that we have shot, and it was going to be something like 2 weeks every time, and so we will find the time to do this work, and then after Alexandra would have a baby, then we will work on the real editing part. So to me it was not a problem, and it was even a good solution. It was something important, because first she was very honest with me, telling me that maybe it's not a good idea to work with her. So when you tell me that, I want to work with you. And also another point was that I started at this point to understand that the film I was going to shoot was only with men, and I was a man, and everybody was man in this prison, and we were going to talk about man topics. And also, I don't have kids, and Alexandra obviously has. So, well, I started thinking, okay, the topics that are going to maybe be talked in the films are connected to being a father or being a mother. Mm. So it was not enough of my expertise of being a child. You could give me another expertise that was being a mother. And I thought it would be, and being a woman. And I thought it would be very important that at some point in this film there was someone who can have the distance I couldn't have, and that this distance could be also the distance of the sex and being a parent. So maybe you want to add something to that?
No, I was not expecting Vicky to work with you at first, as you said. And I think also the fact that Guillaume took the risk to work with me was like very courageous, I thought. So because you never know when you're pregnant if it's going to happen in a good sense. We never know. There's a kind of risk about death anywhere. It's like so.
It was your first child?
No, it was my second child.
Right.
So. In fact, I was so happy to be chosen by you that I think it gave me a kind of big commitment. So yes, because he really arranged all the rhythm of the raw cut editing with me, trying to make the best schedule in order to work together. And I think what you said about me being a mother, etc., I think you didn't knew at that point at all. So it's something that we understood later, that it was like a kind of intuition he had, but later we understood that, because the film at that point was not at all about incest or etc. But yeah, it's
intuition.
Yeah.
And later, I started doubting when we started editing that it would be good for you to be pregnant and listening to all those things, because it was not. We did not expect that, and still it happened. And everything in the film goes that way. I get to the place to film the landscape, and instead I make portraits. I go to the place thinking that I will film the wardens, and the wardens say, no, don't film me. I get to that place, I think those prisoners won't come and talk to me, that's what they do, and they tell me, you can film me, you can film my face, and we are going to talk about the taboo. So they don't say that. Of course they don't say we're going to talk about the taboo, because we don't. We avoid that. But still, it's always around the taboo. And we needed the whole film for the taboo to really emerge, and the word incest is pronounced once in the film, in the end, by Michael, but all throughout the journey that was the film, we were, circling, this taboo. And I was, oh, come on, Alexandra is expecting a child, and what's happening for her? And at some point, I had my doubts for you, for your safety.
Because I have to say that he's very empathic. Empathetic? That's the name. So that's interesting to say that, well, it was my problem in fact, so you didn't have to worry, but it's nice that you did, but it's like, and the thing is that this empathy, is it right?
Yes.
Empathy? Sorry, was one of the problem of the rushes, I mean, because the film was around your, for sure, the film took a direction that was very, very near, very intimate because of your speech, because of your dialogues. And at first, those dialogues were very, very meta, as we say, like they were speaking about the mise en scène. And in the rushes, we will show you something later, but in the rushes, Guillaume was speaking with the detainees about the mise en scène of the film, saying, I can't film this, or I can't, and the dialogues were very, very strange, because I never saw such a thing. And he didn't, I think, see it before, and didn't expect it, but, and it was kind of beautiful too, because we were sharing all those questions. And at first in the editing we thought it could be in the film, so we tried. But the purpose of my presence as an editor was to try to work on the line of his character, with the distance that for the first viewer.
Yeah. No, but no, just you can. So you understood that. When did you decide? You understood that you had to start the editing, I mean, looking at the brushes together while you were filming. When did you understand this?
When did we understand what?
Que tu devais filmer, que vous allez dérocher en même temps que tu tournais.
It was a decision before, even before shooting. Yeah. And that's when we decided to ask to go to Periphery, that is directed by Agnes. And it's a place where you can go and edit your film, and you have a team that can come and watch what you do if you ask them to. So you can make test screenings at different points and try what you are doing with a very committed crew that can tell you what they think, and you do what you want with it. They don't oblige you to do anything, but they give you their advice, and it's a valuable one. So we had the chance to get this possibility. We knew it before starting the film, and it was we were lucky to have that, because we had this schedule. The French administration, the French penitentiary administration, told me before the shooting, you have to choose your 4 moments when you're going to be in the prison. So I picked it up in my schedule for a year, and we decided the other periods in which we were going to edit. So the thing that the film was always moving, was always changing, was made possible by the fact that we could meet and talk about what we were discovering, because everything was always a discovery and a surprise. So when I first came back from the first session that took place in the summer of 2015, I came back and I was very worried, to say the less, of what I've done, because it was not the film that I was expecting, and not only about the topics, but also about the looks of it. That's not the way I film usually. Usually I film on a tripod, and I recompose what I'm doing, and I have some other standards. And to me it was difficult at first to admit that my film was going to have this look. Because everything changed. At first I wanted the film to be not a square like you saw, but a rectangle. Yes. And because I thought the landscapes were guiding me. But then I discovered that I was not doing landscapes, I was doing portraits, and also that the temptation to film the landscapes as beautiful postcards was absolutely obscene, because they told me that the inmates helped me understanding that it was obscene to do that. So I had to fight against my own urge to make a nice shot. For me it was forbidden to make any nice shot, to accept the landscape as a beautiful landscape. And it was very difficult to fight against your own will to make a nice shot, to destroy your movie like that. It was the movie was at risk when I did that. But I understood quickly that it was what I had to do, because the landscape is fake. It's not what the feeling of the prisoners here is. We're going to show you a footage that is talking about precisely what I'm telling you. It's about my doubts at the moment when I'm confronted to this landscape. And as Alexandra told you, those doubts, I told them to the inmates. They were with me to decide how I was filming.
E possibil să stingem luminile?
So it's raw footage, so please be comprehensive.
And you did the titles in English very, very quickly.
Yes, very quickly. So if anything is not correct, please ask after and tell me if it's not precise.
Oui. Mais c'est bizarre, hein, il se lève toujours là. Il n'arrive pas beaucoup. Ouais, franchement. Parce que quand on parle d'habitude, le soleil, hein, il ne nous aide pas de casser les habitudes. Hein.
Tu vois, je pourrais faire ça, je passe derrière toi, le soleil qui se lève, je fais un plan super romantique. Et ça serait très étrange, non?
Ouais, surtout que j'ai pas de faire avec nous, c'est pas un peu mordant.
C'est tous les choix que je peux faire ici. Tu pourrais pas faire dans une prison où tu aurais des barreaux partout.
Et oui, bah c'est ça que tu veux démontrer aussi, parce que...
Je sais pas ce que je veux démontrer, tu sais. Juste, c'est là, et c'est très étrange parce qu'en même temps, je sais pas, tous les jours le soleil se lève ici, c'est pas pour autant que tout le monde le regarde avec des yeux pleins d'étoiles et...
c'est ça. C'est sûr. Bah, en fait, ça devient une habitude pour tout le monde, et après, voilà, on fait l'habitude, ça.
Voilà, je peux bien composer, voilà, essayer de me mettre à la laque.
Ça devient ennuyant, quoi, ça devient, voilà.
Qu'est-ce que c'est beau d'avoir le soleil. Et puis je sais pas, c'est bizarre que ce soit beau en prison, et puis en même temps ça l'est, et puis en même temps...
Ouais, voilà.
En même temps, pourquoi faire?
C'est ça. Tout à fait. Mais c'est zombie.
À la limite, il y a cette question de la tentation de le faire, quoi. Hier, quand je filmais Raphaël dans son arbre, il y avait le soleil juste derrière lui, alors j'ai fait des beaux plans, tu vois, où il est en contre-jour, et puis il y a le soleil qui illumine derrière lui, qui apparaît, qui disparaît. C'est complètement iconique, et puis vraiment, je me dis, mais qu'est-ce que je suis en train de faire? C'est pas un peu indécent de faire ça comme si c'était magnifique, tu vois?
Ouais. Mais non, mais ça montre en même temps que la vie peut être belle quand même.
C'est vrai.
Parce que bon, c'est ça profiter du temps présent.
c'est profiter de ce qui est bon autour de nous. Pas spécialement regarder que ce qui est mauvais, quoi. Et qu'à Alexandra, il y a beaucoup de bonnes choses. Hein.
Moi, c'est toutes les questions que je me pose ici quand je suis.
En fait, il faut savoir être objectif, quoi. Voir les mauvaises choses, mais voir aussi les bonnes, quoi. Parce que si tu vois que les mauvaises, ben, c'est sûr, tu te mines le moral.
Non, mais tu vois, est-ce que c'est objectif? Je suis monté sur le muret derrière pour me mettre dans le bon angle, pour avoir le soleil pendant que tu fumes ta clope, les cheveux au vent. Est-ce que c'est objectif, ça? Est-ce que c'est pas un peu forcé, quoi? Parce qu'après tout, c'est aussi... c'est l'eau. Non, c'est pas que ça qui se passe.
Ah.
C'est pas que ça qui se passe, Joël. Il se passe que c'est l'aube, que t'as dû te lever super tôt, que t'attends pour bosser, un boulot que t'as pas choisi. Et que t'es en prison.
Ouais.
Donc, est-ce que j'ai raison de faire ça, tu vois, d'avoir ce beau soleil derrière toi? Est-ce que j'ai raison de compter sur le muret pour faire mon beau plan, quoi?
Mais pourquoi pas?
Je sais pas. Est-ce que ça reflète justement ce que vous ressentez? Est-ce que c'est pas un problème par rapport
Oui, parce que de toute façon, à un moment, on le ressent, quoi.
Ouais.
Moi, quand je suis là, je suis bien parce que justement, c'est ça. Cette vue-là est incroyable.
C'est vrai.
Donc, bon, sur le moment, tu le ressens comme ça, donc pourquoi pas? Sur le moment. Mais après, bon, tu auras d'autres plans qui seront beaucoup moins joyeux.
Tu crois qu'un spectateur il le comprend comment? Il dit ah bon, la prison c'est magnifique. Dis donc, moi qui croyais qu'il souffrait en
Mais
prison.
c'est pas grave de ce qu'on dit ou de ce qu'on pense. C'est ce qui est qu'il faut voir.
Those kind of things happened a lot, and it was difficult to use those kind of things because first I'm really a pain in the ass. You can't get rid of me, and also because, well, Joel is right to tell me everything he tells me. When he tells me, you have to stop wondering those things. But what he tells me is even more important. He tells me, stop caring about what the viewer will think, let the viewer think what he wants to think. And that was the mistake I was doing at that point. I was trying to think for the viewer. And at some point, Alexandra told me, stop that. Stop it right now, you have to stop that because you don't know, you cannot know what the viewer thinks, and just if what you're saying the viewer will think, maybe that's what you are thinking. So let's be honest with yourself, and if you disagree with something, if you have those kind of thoughts, tell them to Joe, tell them to Michael, tell them to anyone, but stop saying that it is the viewer that has those kind of feelings. If you think that the viewer is upset by this landscape and the two wonderful beauty of this place, and it's an outrage that pedophiles can have the beach and etc. Maybe that's you that is thinking that. So it was hard to hear, but she was right. I had to take this in consideration.
But the thing that you crossed during all this shooting, I think is very interesting because the fact that Guillaume couldn't stop his feelings to appear in a kind of direct speech of the mind he had, because it's what we see here. Everything is so directly said. There is no any form of filter. So there is filter for sure, but less than anyone else I can say, because he was also speaking during the the time we were looking at the rushes. So I was hearing Guillaume in the rushes, but he was speaking on the rushes when we spoke. It was like a very strange experience, but it was good also because he, in fact, all this is the film, and it could make the film possible. And the thing also is that the first point it was your doubts about the viewer, and also there were also, as you said, the question of victimizing the detainees, because he was feeling so bad for them that he was sometimes in some discussion he had, he was saying something with the tone of someone who is so sad about the situation of the person. And for me as a viewer, first viewer, I couldn't bear it because I was a bit like thinking they were criminals.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were criminals.
Yeah.
And they had to be confronted. He had to go and fight with them in order to understand what was happening in the dialogue, and also that was what the viewer wanted him to do, but it was hard to do because he had to go into the conflict, and in fact all the film is about that. At first he can't, and then he begins to do that, and at a certain point when he speaks with Michael, he says things that are so troubling, disturbing, that Michael has to answer and explain things, and it's good for them to be. They were expecting that, because I think it's awful to be looked as someone who is a victim. It's so terrible. You have to consider that anyone has the strength to go further. And victimizing someone is killing the person, I think. And he could understand that from what I said at that point, and then he went into this path, I think. So it was very, very interesting what you could do then. And yeah, for me it was so surprising the way you let your mind speak. It's like very. So it's hard to do that.
I was helped by the fact that I was filming, and when you're filming and you have to speak all together at once, when you cannot, you don't have any moment of rest. You film, you talk, you do everything. Everything relies on you, so you don't have time to think. So what you say is going to be with less filter, like you said. But and it was very intense. At the end of those days, I was exhausted. I was empty. Everything that I could do was done in those very intense moments that were lasting long. Because when I talked with someone, it lasts something like 2 hours. So at the end of that, I was speechless. There was not any more words that could come out of me. And and the thing is, I knew that there was one problem in this film that could never be. I could never find a solution to this problem. Was that I was going to make a film without the victims, and of course, because I'm filming in the prison, so if the victims were there, it would be a problem. But still, I knew I was going to make a film. Well, I understood I was going to make a film about incest without the victims of incest, without their words. And I had to fight against, victimization, as you said, and also complaisance.
Complacency.
Complacency, yeah. The thing is, I did not want to redo their trial. That was not the point. It was one of the few rules we set together, because every conversation is very spontaneous. Nothing was scripted, nothing was prepared. and everything happens all of a sudden, and my camera is here, so I take it and I shoot what's happening right now. But there were a few rules, and the most important of which was to protect the victims. And to protect them, I was always showing that if they were going too far, if they were going to say that the victim was a liar or those kind of things, I would cut my camera and I would say, okay, we are not there for that. Your trial was before. I can't do nothing about the fact that you're in prison. This won't change. I'm not here to change your sentence. I'm only there to understand who you are and what happened, but not what happened in the facts. That's something else. But I didn't quite know what, because it's Michael that says at the end of the film that he has found the answers to his questions. But I guess at first he had to find the questions, and it's not that easy and obvious what the questions could be. You have to go deep to find those questions, and maybe then you will find the answers. And it's not that clear. I'm telling him in the film that when he tells me I have found my questions, I say, in French I say c'est un peu ésotérique. I don't know how it was translated.
Esoteric?
Esoteric, is it? Okay. And yes, to me it was not that clear.
Yeah.
What are your questions? What are the answers? Can there even be answers? And that was my quest all through the shooting, and that's what we tried to reconstruct during the editing.
Yeah,
we had to follow all those paths all together. Some paths go to the wrong way and go nowhere, and some are trying to go someplace, and we will maybe find out.
When did you understood that you had to follow the path you have, your path actually, your understanding? You know what I mean? Because that's what you have edited.
Yeah, I understood that at the end of the shooting, when I came back with the last moment of the film, because I had no idea that something like that could happen. And this moment, it happened by accident, like the rest, every time. We were not supposed to film with Michael that day. He was supposed to go and bike with a group of inmates, and he hurt his foot. And so he was there and told me, okay, do you want to go and walk in the woods? So we go, off we go. And it happens right now. So when I come back with that, we had started to think of a film. We had began to understand that that shot can go with this one, and that can be the narrative.
Because almost the last sequence of the shooting, all the shooting of the film.
Yeah. And I came back with that, and we understood it's the end of the film. Oh.
I have a question. Why did you choose to drop this scene? Why did you choose to drop this?
To drop
sequence. To drop it out. I mean, to take it out.
It's this one.
Yeah.
Oh, this one? The one you just saw?
Yes.
Why did we? Because it was no longer useful to the editing process. We had to choose things. It's always difficult to pick some things. Well, I think we were right to drop it because it was too much about me and not enough about them.
But I think, for example, what I think it's valuable with your film is that your position as a director is equal with the interlocutor. And it's not so explicit into the film. You didn't have any idea there, you didn't know what you do there, so you are not a director. You are just a single person that could make some other persons to open themselves in a very direct way and in a very human way. So I think it's a very valuable moment, this one, in which it is shown that you didn't have any, you are just a sincere human being, no prejudice, trying to understand, having curiosity, and I think this is the way in which we all have to be, in a way.
I was very naive when I went there, very, very naive. And that's why everything happens in this film. You're right, you're completely right. I did not want to direct anything, but still I had to choose. I had to choose how I film this or that. For instance, when I'm with Michael in his cell with the white wall, I can film him his face, but I take his profile. And you know why? I do that? Not only because the space tells me to do that, because it's a small cell, but also because I saw a little light that comes from the top right of the picture, and that descends on his face like that. And at some point I was, okay, it's a confession. Something like, here is a confession, and this light is telling me that. So at that point, at some points like that, I make a choice that could be dangerous because I don't know what I'm doing. It's just an intuition. I have this idea, okay, this light tells me that, so let's try it. And sometimes the light is really at the top of the shot, and sometimes it moves and everything is lost. But it comes back, and all of a sudden Michael does that with his hands, and something happens. Then it disappears. It's the moment. So everything is like that in the film. And with Michael, it happens a lot. You have this moment when he's backlit, and then all of a sudden his face appears. And in the end, in the woods, he does the same. He starts in the shades, and he starts walking, and the sun comes slowly. And then in the end, when he's released, we are in the open, out in the open, really. And the sun is directly there, and is in full light. And everything is like that, but everything happens like that, like by miracle, I don't know.
You are also in the open, I think. You are also exposed in a way. But having this kind of material, very hard to control in a way. I mean, too accidental, with a lot of accidents. And what were your, let's say, I don't know how to say, structures, the structural choices, because you have to have, you have to drop some things and keep others. So, what were the main things that you did?
Now perhaps you can tell us about the first work or version.
The first cut?
Yes, that you showed.
I just, what we did about the editing was first really having all the material of the speeches put on paper, and it was a long time. And during this time, we were looking again and again the brushes, because we already we had seen everything during the shooting, but we redid it when we, after my child came to the world some months after, so we had to re-go into our memory. So that's how when time is passing. But it's good also in a certain way, because it's in fact what I think about editing is that we really must avoid going too quickly into the construction with the images. The good way is to wait until you have a big frustration, and then you write your structure, you put your structure on paper, you put it on the post-its, the little papers, you change all the ways in order to understand in many ways your idea. So what we did is speaking a lot about the rushes. We had classified everything with all the mots-clés, keywords. And the thing is that's interesting because even we had this ultimate shot of Michael saying his last words. We knew it was maybe the last sequence of the film. It was obvious in a certain way, but we had many paths to take, many opportunities to go to that point, and there were so much incredible sequences in the film that we will show one after this speech, maybe after what you will say, but we had many very cinematic sequences. And at the end now, the film is very in a kind of low movement with many accidents, and we took away all those cinematic sequences because they were hiding the movement. We had to go into the introspection of the film, and not into the spectacular scenes, even if they were very, very interesting. So it had been very complicated to edit. We took 7 months to finalize the film, and I wanted to say that at first we thought the film would pass through the idea of the work in the fields, coming to this end, that we were passing through the characters into the work of the fields. That was the first idea of Guillaume, and it was his political idea about the works in the fields in a certain sense, doesn't have any sense. So, but it was very hard to say, he had filmed many people working, but it couldn't. It was not the good path, in fact. So we had to understand that the work is not the work in the field; it's the work of inner work. Yeah. But it was so complicated for Guillaume, I think, because it was not political at that point for him. And at the end, he discovered that it was, but it was crossing the taboo, because the film was not about that. So how do you? Because there are producers. The periphery is also a kind of producing place. We had the administration person who was supposed to see the film at the end and was supposed to censor the film also, because it was not what she expected at first. So we had our mind was really surrounded by boundaries again, that we couldn't do that, but in fact we had to do it because it was the secret we discovered in the rushes, that they were all talking about desire, love, limits, liberty, or I don't know, the fear, the crossing the limits, like passage à l'acte we said in French, and everything was, in a certain sense, forbidden for us. So it's very strange how. So that just to say that at first we classified in a certain point that all those moments of speech about love, we were so happy to see them. We were happy to see them, but it was not the film. So they were put away, and we worked on the structure, and it took some months that we understood that all that we had put on the side was the film. So we rediscovered everything, and at that point we understood that the detainees, they all had to speak about it. They were speaking to us directly, but it was scripted. It was filtered. We couldn't hear at first.
It was our own censorship.
Yeah. It was.
What was the moment when you, inside yourself, decided not to be a director anymore? I mean, like being inside and and realize that you are not doing what you are doing as usual, or it was before this movie? I mean, in order to
No,
be able
not before. That's for sure.
So in a way, it changed you also, this process. And I think this is the real thing that I see, and it's wonderful, you know. I mean, thank you both of you for
I just want to say something, because you say when you decide not to be a director, I understand what you mean when you say this, but for me, this is being a director.
Yeah, of
For
course.
me, it's this. It's really being able. For me, it's really, and it's also what I do, because I don't do like you do in your other film, like organizing everything. I always go. Obviously, I have to have an aim to go in a direction. But I'm totally open, and for me to be a director is able. I mean, you do, but it's really to be able to be so open that you are going to go where you didn't expect to go, and you do with the material, the matière, the raw material that is made with places, people, and whatever, rhythm, music, I don't know, whatever it is you are filming, and then you are sculpting with them, you are doing something with them that you didn't know, and this is, for me, I'm not talking about me now, but the best directors are able to let go everything they have in their mind. During the years they were writing rubbishes to find the fucking money, you know, and whatever, you need to, they want to read this, okay, I write them for this if it can mean money, you know, but then, you know what I mean, and then you let down.
those compromises.
And sorry?
I mean, this is life also for a director. You have to do
Yes.
compromises. The thing that I find is
It's not a compromise.
valuable is how you can be able, you know, because it's how you said, you are very fond of perfect cadre, you know, perfect, you know, how are you able to drop it and choose for a different thing? And
Because-
not knowing.
Because I felt something was happening. I felt that what was happening was unique, and I had to accept it, and I had to embrace it. It felt important. Maybe I was wrong, but I had to try it, you know. And so here it went. I don't know. I'm not that sure that there was one point when I decided it. Just I said, okay, let's go. But I can't remember one point. I'm not sure. I guess in a way this film is helping me as director to act differently. Maybe it's the first time that I was without any references. I was not thinking of cinema when I was shooting. That's maybe what you mean by not being a director at this point. I was not thinking of the
Not
directors.
thinking of the cinema, sorry that I interrupt.
Yeah.
Not thinking of the cinema, but being able to accept that you don't know
Yeah,
in
and
front of them.
that's what I think. At this point, it was the first time for me, I guess. So it's my 12th film. It's the first time I shoot a film without thinking of a director, of another director. And my other films, when I was doing this shot, I was okay. I'm shooting the way that this or that director would have shot. I was okay. Raul Ruiz, how would would have done that, so I can do that too. But
He
at that
killed
point,
the father.
yeah, when I was doing this film, it was too late to ask those questions. What was happening was too important for me to even think of that. It was not important at all. So it's the first time, I guess, I'm doing something that looks a lot like me. That is what I can do. It is not what I can do when I think of those people I like and I try to do the same as them. And it's impossible, so it's less good, of course. And this time it's only me, and I know in a way I don't know if it exists in English, but we in France we say ça ne ressemble à rien. It looks like nothing, and in French it means both it's rubbish and also I've never seen it before. It can have both meanings, and it was what was happening to me when I was watching the rushes. I was okay, it's rubbish, or I've never seen it before. Maybe both at the same time. So it was really this expression, ça ne ressemble à rien. And yeah, it looks like nothing. So yeah, it was. I was very lucky that Alexandra helped me to identify what it was looking like. You know, because yes, she told me, okay, this shot you cannot watch it. I don't want to see that. That's why I was talking during the editing process. I not want her to look at this. I wanted to catch her attention and let's do something else, Alexandra. And I was ashamed by what I was filming. And Alexandra helped me to tell me, okay, no, this is important. This it can happen. The shaking is your shakings, and it's your emotions. The frame conveys your emotions. So let's accept that. So I did, and now I think it's easier for me. But for a long time I did not accept what I was feeling. Yeah.
So hello, thank you for the movie. I wanted to ask you about the final sequence of Joel, because I was so moved by the fact that he committed suicide after the movie, after a while.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand to get free. And you're talking about the confession of Michael, and the light was hitting him, and you felt this would work, and you went together for searching answers. And you did that also with Joel, with a different backdrop. The waves were splashing in the background. He wasn't facing the waves and the sky. Everything was somewhere. Was it your choice to put him in that mise en scène? And can you tell us more about him?
So Joel is the guy we saw in this cut that was dropped, the guy with the beard, and then later without the beard. So you're talking about the moment he is on the beach, and I did not choose it. He is the one who chose to turn his back to the sea. So then I adapted my mise en scène to that, and I was stunned that he chose that. So I composed with that. I want us to understand that he's turning his back to the sea, but that's the position he chooses. And this position is so stunning that I want to get this. And Joel, at this point, to me, what happens in this sequence is that Joel understands that he does not just talk to me, but he's also talking to you. It's a moment that he understands that the camera is going to get his image and give it to the whole wide world, even though it's not that many people, but still it's going to be released to people that he won't know, he won't be able to know, he will never know. And he has something to say to those people. So at first we talked together about the second chance, etc. And then in the end we have said everything we had to say about the second chance, and he asked it another time though, and it's to you. I'm pretty sure it's to you, and that's how we decided to edit the sequence. That's why we decided to end it there and then go to the waves, because at that point his eyes went from my face to the lens of the camera, and I'm really sure that he's talking to you. Because there's no answer to that. I cannot answer. If you saw the rest of the footage, there's nothing. I'm speechless. There's nothing to say. And it's the end of this conversation. After we have nothing new to say. We turn around and around and around. And so, yes, this sequence is amazing to me because he decides that the horizon is not the open horizon, it's you. It's you that are not there. And to me, it's very important. And yes, you heard that Joel committed suicide this summer, so a long time after the shooting. It's not connected to the shooting. Joel was next to be released in some years, and also his daughter was about to turn 18. And I guess that it was too hard, too heavy of a burden. I guess we don't know. Nobody knows. He didn't leave a letter or nothing. We don't really know what happened.
In fact, we don't know if it's a suicide.
We don't know if it's a suicide.
Because there's a suspicion of crime also. So
No.
Really?
No. There's no suspicion. No. There's no suspicion of crime. But the thing is, so to commit suicide or to die or to escape, maybe, he went out of the perimeter of the prison. Then he undressed, and then he went to the water that was not the sea, but a small pond that is next to the prison. And that's where he drowned. So it's difficult to drown yourself, to choose to drown yourself. It's not the easiest way to commit suicide. But there are no traces of fight or nothing, because 2 years before there was a case of an inmate that was drowned in the same pond, but there were traces of fight. His face was tumefied, etc. So for that guy 2 years before, there might be a crime, and we will never know. For Joel, we still don't know if he tried to escape and drowned by accident, or if it was deliberate, or if something else happened, because we don't have the toxicological analysis results. And the analysis was done, but never released. So we don't know what really happened. That's it.
The time is passing, so I want to ask another question about the structure. When did you decide to make a film with these people? Because I know that you have filmed many other people. And how did you decide it was with Joel and Michael and a few more, but they were the main characters? Did you have other versions? Different versions. I remember you talking to me about Michael.
Yeah, I filmed some other inmates, not that much. There are 130 inmates in Casablanca at the moment I was filming, and maybe I filmed something like 8, 10, yeah, something like that. Some of them I filmed just one day or two, and it was over. Some of them I filmed 1 hour. There was one guy who told me to come and listen to him play the piano, and he played a famous song in France that is called L'Aigle Noir, and it's about incest. It's a famous singer in France that is called Barbara, and she has this very metaphorical song that is very popular in France for some reason.
You can sing it without knowing it's
Yes, you don't know, it's very cryptic. And he asked me to come, and he just sings this song and tells me that's all there is to say. It was amazing. We had some things like that, and I had also one particular guy who did want to be in the film, but he did not want his face to be seen. So I tried to film him nevertheless, and to have him in the film. For a long time we had one person whose face you didn't see. And the thing that was interesting was that at some point I'm telling to that guy who is called Fabien, I tell him, I don't know how to film anymore with you. I don't know what to do, I don't know what to film. I have filmed your hands, I have filmed your back. We've been together, with him we were mainly walking. He wanted us to walk on the many paths, and he was telling me about what was around him. So when you have circled everywhere in this prison, and he has described me everything, what else could I film? So I was telling him that, and he told me, okay, give me the camera. And there's a reverse shot, and all of a sudden I'm there. And we were kind of sure that it was going to be an important scene in the film. The thing is, at that point when he takes the camera and it's his time to ask me questions, he's not that sure of what to ask me, and I'm very bad at answering him. I'm very, very bad. I'm once more I'm trying to explain what the film is going to be, and it's not interesting at all. So there was no point for us to use this sequence. Yes, you can.
I don't know how long we have, but we could show a Raphael sequence, because it's
it will
very...
It will help you understand how we had to cut and
the
drop.
dilemma we had with a very interesting character that lead us to nonsense. We could show...
You met that guy at Christmas. He's the one with the guitar. I filmed him much more. He had a very huge part in the film, and at some point we had to understand that we had to let go of him. But it was not obvious, and you will see how that guy was so cinematic and brilliant.
Yeah. Maybe that's interesting.
It's also raw footage, and it was something that was supposed to be at the very beginning of the film. And just a few images were before, where you can see people working on the fields, and well, I filmed many people, and at some point I stopped on that guy. So you will see what happened.
Ah, les artistes. Comment ça fait quand on est de l'autre côté? Eh bien, pas dans le champ visuel.
Ça fait qu'on se prend les copeaux dans la gueule. C'est ça que ça fait.
Ça doit faire bizarre de faire semblant de pas être là.
Ouais, hein.
Ah ouais, c'est bien,
Ça doit faire bizarre de faire semblant de pas nous voir.
C'est pas facile. Pas facile. L'attention est tout de suite captée sur. Donc on fait semblant, quoi. On fait semblant de pas faire semblant.
Après, tu sais, dans mes films, je fais pas semblant de pas être là. Hein. Je sais que je suis là. Dans mes films.
Ah oui, c'est pour moi, je disais ça.
Bien sûr, ouais.
Je me disais tout à l'heure, bon, est-ce qu'il faut que j'ai l'air. L'air de rien, normal, quoi, tout va bien.
Pas de problème. Et en même temps, il y a un truc anormal, c'est ton air.
Voilà, ça crée une complexité pour le cerveau.
Ouais.
Mais bon, t'inquiète pas, en prison, on t'habitue à ça. Aux trucs qui sont des complexités pour le cerveau. Donc tu fais avec, au bout d'un moment t'es modé, c'est sérieux, c'est pas bizarre. eh bien, on voudrait te faire croire des choses qui ne sont pas vraies, ou qui le sont à moitié. J'en discute des fois avec des collègues comme ça, on se dit, tu vois, quand tu es un petit enfant, à l'école, on t'apprend des choses sur le monde, les gens, comment se comporter les uns avec les autres. C'est ce que dernièrement, notre gouvernement disait qu'il fallait réinstaurer une classe d'éducation civique. Et donc, voilà, on t'apprend ça, on t'apprend normalement. Et puis quand tu quittes l'école, que tu rentres dans le monde de l'adulte, donc dans le monde du travail, tu te rends compte que tout ce qu'on t'a appris avant, en fait, ça ne se réalise pas derrière. Limite, c'est même l'opposé qui se passe. Donc c'est pour ça que ça crée des complexités. Voilà. Donc après, on t'envoie en prison selon les crimes que tu as commis. Et la prison, de mon point de vue, est censée t'aider à te rediscipliner, à retrouver justement ce qu'on t'avait appris quand tu étais enfant à l'école. Mais dans le monde extérieur, ça ne se passe jamais. Très rarement. Donc, voilà, comment faire quoi. C'est là où il y a complexité cérébrale.
Et c'est là où tu vois un point commun avec le fait d'être humain.
Et oui, parce que je sais que vous êtes là, mais il faut que je fasse abstraction de votre présence. Donc forcément, l'autre là-haut, là, tu vois, il a envie de faire comme si vous n'étiez pas là, mais il sait que vous êtes là. C'est comme la prison ouverte. C'est le même principe que la cage ouverte. Tu vois. Là, il n'y a pas de mur. Bon, là, il y a des grilles, mais enfin, là, c'est pas chez nous, c'est chez eux. Mais là-bas, chez nous, en bas, là, il n'y a pas de grille, il n'y a pas de mur, il n'y a pas de barbelé, il n'y a rien. Mais pourtant, tu sais que la limite, elle est là. C'est-à-dire que tu dois la faire. Voilà. Ça se rejoint un peu, tu vois.
Et du coup, ça te fait une gêne que nous, on te filme et qu'on doit faire semblant d'être transparent?
Non, je n'irai pas jusqu'à dire que ça me fait une gêne. Je suis juste conscient qu'il y a une sorte d'anachronisme, il y a quelque chose qui est un peu... voilà. Vous ne seriez pas là, ou alors non, vous auriez piégé le parcours avec des caméras et des micros à mon insu, vous n'êtes pas là, et je serais, mais... voile au vent, quoi. Mais comme vous êtes là, forcément...
Ouais, mais au mieux qu'on fasse ça plutôt que de foutre des caméras.
Je suis bien d'accord. Non, mais de toute façon, bon, c'est bien, c'est bien.
Ouais, mais c'est peut-être ça la différence avec cette idée de prison ouverte, prison fermée, là. C'est peut-être là où... Enfin, c'est-à-dire que nous, on se cache pas, quoi. C'est-à-dire que, effectivement, toi, tu sens qu'il faut faire semblant qu'on soit pas là, et puis nous, il faudrait qu'on fasse disparaître nos caméras, mais en même temps, on se cache pas.
Non. Je suis quelqu'un d'un peu particulier parce que dans la vie, j'ai compris qu'il y avait un sens et un non-sens. Et ce qui est sens, peut-être une réalité, une vérité, et ce qui est non-sens, peut-être aussi une vérité et une réalité. Donc il faut prendre en compte les deux. Voilà, c'est pour ça que je disais ça en fait.
Ouais, mais je comprends.
Mais après, il n'y a aucune ambiguïté, aucun problème.
Non, mais c'est intéressant. Parce que c'est vrai que c'est à tous les points que qu'on trouve nous.
Non, écoutez là, putain, vous n'êtes pas en vacances, je sais pas où, mais aux Caraïbes, là, vous êtes là en train de bosser, il fait 35 à l'ombre, il faut être fou quand même.
Merci. Non, merde, on n'a rien à faire en prison.
Vous avez rien à faire en prison. Ah, sache que j'ai appris une chose en prison, c'est que n'importe qui, même le plus honnête des hommes, peut du jour au lendemain finir en prison. Voilà. C'est ça qui est dingue, quoi. Il ne faut pas penser que le prisonnier, ce n'est qu'un certain type d'individu. Et que forcément, tel individu, parce qu'il a telle gueule ou il vit dans tel milieu, lui, il est prédestiné à finir en prison. C'est pas vrai. N'importe qui peut finir en prison. Même le président, bon, enfin, je dis ça, le président, en général, il arrive toujours à s'en sortir, plus ou moins, ces gens-là. Tu vois. Mais il n'y a pas de... comment dire, il n'y a pas de... Rien n'est défini au départ. Et il n'y a pas de fatalité non plus. Voilà. Tu peux perpétrer, je dirais, des actes délinquants, criminels, je dirais jusqu'à criminels, parce que c'est ce qu'il y a de plus fort. Mais ça ne veut pas dire que toute ta vie tu es condamné à le faire. Voilà. Et en même temps, tu peux être reconnu parmi les tiens, parmi tes pairs, comme on dit, comme étant un saint homme, une belle personne. Tu as toujours agi pour les autres, tu as toujours voulu que ça aille bien pour tout le monde. Et voilà, du jour au lendemain, pour X raison, tu peux finir en prison. Donc tu vois, c'est le sens et le non-sens. Même si on le retrouve. Quand bien il parle du zen et du zazen, mais c'est un peu pareil. Ça se rejoint.
Ce que j'aime bien avec le mot non-sens, c'est que ça veut aussi dire l'absurde, quoi. Le non-sens, ça veut dire beaucoup de choses, quoi. Il y a le nonsense, tu sais, à l'anglo-saxonne, ça veut dire l'absurde.
Oui, parce que nous sommes un nous. Quand je dis nous, c'est ce que Maxime me dit souvent, c'est marrant parce que vous dites jamais je. Donc je vais dire je. Je fais partie d'un univers qui est dans l'expansion, dans une super limite qui n'existe pas encore. C'est ce que Max Planck appelait la radiation du corps noir. Donc dans cette idée-là, si tu veux, notre univers existe dans un milieu qui n'existe pas, mais qui va exister puisque l'univers s'étend vers lui. C'est là où le sens et le non-sens sont une vraie réalité en même temps. Donc autant c'est abstrait que concret, tu vois, les deux. De toute façon, tout fonctionne par deux. Voilà. Ici sur Terre, je dirais qu'il y a une réelle possibilité de visionner la dualité. Mais c'est semblable dans l'univers tout entier.
Tout petit peu.
So as you can see, everything was in this sequence, and it was summing up every aspect of the film, and it was too much in a way. That's why we had to let go of this sequence, because too much was done in one intense moment that was beginning the film, and then where could you go after that? It was too much.
Maybe there are several films. Maybe there are another film to be made.
Maybe that's something we sometimes we talk about, that we have the idea that we could make a video art installation in space where you can go and visit Joel, myself, Michael, and some others, and that guy and some other guys. Because,
and make your own editing also, in a certain sense, by space.
You can choose, you go there, and we are talking the 2 hour long discussion. You go there, you happen to get into this conversation, and then you can go whenever you want and go to another place. If you go to the place where people are washing their clothes, you will find Joel there, because that was where he was working. So that's the place I filmed him, and he was putting the clothes in the washing machine, then close it, he launches the washing machine, he sits, and he gets off a little notebook in which there are all his thoughts, and he reads it all through the machine, the time of the machine, and in the end of that, you have access to his strange thinkings, and it's amazing. It's it's art brut with him every time, and you have all these little things. And okay, you have the film that you saw, and it's a path. It's an important path, and I think the film has to be seen this way. But you can complete it maybe one day if we manage to do that with all the other rushes, meetings and conversations.
I was making of.
I'm making of. I don't know.
I wanted to ask, because we don't have time, also, but really you to talk about how you have edited also more closely on Michael, and how he did it well, because it's very important.
Yeah, there were many cuts of this film. The first one was 5 hours and a half. It was unbearable. And there was a very shortest one, something like 1 hour 10 or 20, that was centered on Michael. And you had his talks and his path. That is a path that doesn't go to like that. It's a straight path. Yes, it's not that sinuous. And with Michael, it's a straight path. And we were wondering if it could work this way. So we made a screening at Periphery with some people, and the people were very angry against that cut. because everybody was telling us, Michael is lying to you. He's telling you what you want to hear. He's making everything he wants with you, and you lost. And you were manipulated, and we were shocked by that. I was very hurt hearing that, because to me, what Michael was saying was impossible to invent, and it was the most sincere thing I've heard in my whole life, in a way. So we understood at that point that to make it for this way of talking to appear, for this truth to come, you had to put it inside all the other characters and the other sinuous paths.
Can I say something? Just because Joel tried a lot to make the same movement that Michael does, and Joel, in a certain sense, he's failing, but he tries hardly. So this movement was the way that we could understand within this character of Joel that maybe Michael was also in that kind of previous movement. They were the same in a certain sense, but they were stages, different stages and antitheses also. And for the viewer, we could maybe understand how hard it was to come to that point. Because we came in another time with Michael. Michael was at the end of his movement, and Joel was maybe at the beginning. So that's why also we try to imagine that each character of the film was a stage, of the initiation we had to cross.
Did you project screen this movie to the?
Yeah. I went to Casabianda when the film was almost over. The editing part was almost over, and I wanted them to see that. So I screened it to the people that were still incarcerated, and I knew that Michael was released. So we still had a connection. We were writing each other, etc. And I went and screened it to him in the town he lives now. But some of the characters could not see the film for some reason. The guy at Christmas that says that it's his last Christmas, he was released, but he didn't give me his address. He was supposed to, but he disappeared. And also the guy that makes the muscular guy. That guy, sometimes after my shooting, he tried to commit suicide, and he was transferred to a psychiatric prison, to which I'm not allowed to go. So yeah. So those two guys could not see the film.
He's Romanian from the origin.
That's true. Yeah, I had forgotten that. That two people, those two people could not see the film, and maybe one day they will see it. I don't know. But for all the others, they were very moved by it. They were very worried before. They were not that sure that the film could be honest, etc. And they were very moved and surprised, not only by the film, but also by the things they were learning about each other. They're in the same place for years, and they know nothing about each other, because nobody talks to anybody of things that matters. Michael says that. He says, we say, okay, the food is disgusting, how do you do? Things with no interest. The thing that matters, you don't talk to each other. So they discovered what Michael had done. They discovered many things it was very important to them. And today, I believe that about Joel, what's important to me is that it carries something that Joel never said to anybody else. So his memory will last, and maybe one day maybe, I don't know, his children will see that and have the idea that the father was trying something. He did not achieve it, but he was trying something. And I know it can happen because the daughter of Michael, the film was released in France on February the 20th, and you can go and watch it in the theater next to your place. And she discovered it by chance because it was a school screening. She went with her comrades. She's in a special school. She wants to work with as a psychologist. Yeah. And so the school organized to go and see this film. I don't know what she knew before. I don't know if she was expecting to see her father. But what I know is what Michael told me, is that at first she recognized his voice, of course, just like you saw. And it was, yes, it was a shock. And then after that she sees the face of the man she had not seen in 7 years, and she said to him that it was liberation. She was freed by the film, and he is still shocked by those words because he was released, he was freed, and she uses the same words, and I don't know what will happen now, but she wants to meet him again, and before seeing the film it was not that easy. That was not her thought. So those things can happen.
Is he the one saying the film has to have a utility?
Yeah, that's it. That's the guy that says even the name of her victim. And he says the name Rose, and that's Rose who saw the film. And to me, it's a shock also. I wasn't sure before the film was released that I wanted that somebody like Rose might recognize someone on the screen and see it. I was not sure it was a good idea. It was something that was scaring me also. And now it happened, and it seems to be okay. It even seems to be a great thing. But I was not that sure, you know. I was scared, I told you. But you told me it's something that you would have liked to have too. So now I understand. But before that I did not understand. I was so scared.
We are going to be a lot of Rose who will be living by procuration. I don't know how to say by procuration.
Vicariously.
By what?
Vicariously.
Vicariously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vicariously.
Vicariously?
Yeah.
Okay, vicariously through her. Vicariously. How do you say?
Vicariously through her, yeah.
Ah, yeah, vicariously through Rose. Things that we couldn't live with our fathers, mothers, whatever. You know, so it's really, extremely important. And that's good that you may not have been conscious of what you were doing, because you would have been, too much impressed, so, and you wouldn't have had this freedom, that you had, because you were not involved in your life, personal life with this, and this is wonderful, anyway, it's wonderful that you didn't live this, but also that you could be somebody to take us there. The first time I saw the film, I was so afraid, and I was like hiding behind you, and I was like, oh, thank you, Guillaume, because I had the courage to go because you were there.
And on screen, but not on screen, but
on the screen, and because you assumed and you work this character with, it's a common work with you, obviously, because she told you could adapt also your reaction and everything, but and then assume it totally, understanding that you could take us by the hand, but in a stupid television way. You know, in your very, very intelligent, because you are very intelligent. No, but it's important, you know, and you are sensible, intelligent, and you are able to put words also on the spot, you know, to name things. And sometimes you can feel things, but you don't have, you know. And so all this mixture made, yes, this miracle film.
Thank you.
I really mean what I'm saying. I'm not exaggerating, really. So
I want just to say some words about periphery, just
yes,
because
please.
Just little words about how we could make this film also is because we were accompanied by a place like periphery where, and also because of you also as a person and with also a structure. And,
yes, but I invite you to see the website for information. But it's a place dedicated to the documentary, and it's implanted in Montreuil, nearby Paris. I don't know if you know, and it was founded by two filmmakers, Jean-Patrick Lebel and Claudine Boris. Perhaps you know too. And among our activity, we welcome filmmakers during the editing without any time limit.
Yeah,
and
it's very important.
It's important.
Yes. My film After the Silence, finally I was there for a year with photos and everything, but it's super important.
Yes,
when you feel that you need more time.
10, 20 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes more.
Yeah, extremely precious.
Yes.
Or inventing things. When I was doing After the Silence, the same, I had to look at my brushes, and it was so painful that I couldn't do it at home. And this was long before the editing. And they said, okay, come. And on the spot, I had a room, and I would go for 2 months and look at my brushes.
Films that are not produced also are selected
without producer.
Yeah, without any producer. So this is very important. Just in order to understand that films are being made by filmmakers and technicians, but also thanks to places like this one. Periphery is very important now, and maybe in Romania, maybe it existed already, but maybe you have to do it also in order
to invent a periphery. But we're also thinking, but it's really like a baby embryon, to think of making a partenariat in between Una Picești and Periphery, and maybe we'll see. We say what we are dreaming of, and then maybe it won't happen. But we are dreaming of making something that would allow, at a certain point, to welcome one student per year. To do an editing in Paris. So this is a dream, and
it's the idea.
But we, as when we do films, we have a direction, and then but this is the direction, and then we see. And we are going So as I was telling you, every 3 months we are going to dig into a film, and some of the films will be selected in the Periphery catalogue. And so you will hear lots of very delicious French accents. Very angry. Yes, I know, people say it's delicious, so that's why I don't worry my accent anymore. I don't try to speak super good English, because I know that it's delicious. So, thank you very much. Yes,
thank you so much.
And so it's my fault. Next year, the next time, I will, because I didn't calculate well. I didn't look how it was calculated on the schedule. But we need 3 hours to be really, of workshop.